The lesson.
Oh yeah.
The one track that was real memorable, I mean, it was a great album front to back, but the one track that I really remember was the Monopoly joint.
Yeah.
Tell us what your take is on that song, and like, you know, what was happening in Melbourne around that time that dropped.
Year we're talking about 2000 and, was it 2000?
I think it dropped. I think Legend Official dropped in 07.
Yeah, 2006. I thought it was 2000. Oh, maybe they're doing 2006. Yeah, I'm just trying to think what I was doing in 2006. Actually, I know, I can tell you, at that time, Zulu was pretty big for us. So we were like on a whole different area doing a whole different stuff. So we weren't really with the Melbourne. The Melbourne culture became segregated, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Not out of not because they wanted to be like that. It's just, because there was a lot more clubs. People started going locally to their own things. People started moving, and not only that. I think with technology, the music, everything, anyone could be a producer all of a sudden. It took away. Producers no longer needed a big studio to do anything. Someone could get their laptop and make a track, So it just took the whole production side of thing out of the equation for, someone who was a great producer like Trem or, Mama's Funk or people like that. It was like all of a sudden these cats come along with a laptop and they can do just something simple. So it was like, it was great at the same time because there's more tracks coming out. But as the community, the culture grew, it sort of expanded. People started not to, congregate more. They started to segregate a lot more. And I think with the culture itself started to do that. And then as time progressed and, you watch things change in hip hop. You watch new people come and older people, get older and have families and move on. And one thing was being a Zulu was for us was about, keeping the history, telling a true story about it, and sharing the knowledge. Not forcing anything on anyone, but to share it to people so they know, like you're doing right now. You're documenting my history, my knowledge that I'm sharing with you, because I feel people have a right to know, not just from this guy's perspective, not from this guy's, but from mine and else, and that's great, because the more people, because it's like when someone says, oh, when did you first, you weren't there, or I was here this year and I was here that year and I'm old school, you're not. Everybody has their starting point. Everybody has a starting point. So just because this guy starts now and he embraces and loves the culture, I'm not going to diss him and say, well, you're not old school, because he's passionate, he loves the culture. Everybody has a starting point. And I think that's one thing in today's community. The culture is it's gone back underground, in my opinion. The trams and the prowlers and that culture of hip hop, the beats and that style, it's there, but it's not as predominant as what all these young cats are coming in and just, bringing in a whole new wave of music and how it's done. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I just feel that if you go to somewhere like New York and you've got all these new cats making music, like Jay-Z's, etc., they still acknowledge people from the 70s in hip hop, your Bambatas, whatever, Zulus and Jazzy J, etc. Whereas here, I find the new cats, the knowledge hasn't been passed on to the new cats. So therefore, the history starts to get lost. So therefore, these cats don't know who we are, and they just think it started around, 2005, 2009 or whatever, and that's when everything started. But I'm not saying they think that way, but it's generalised that way, So it's like, someone's been around DJing for 30 years, is like, who's that? I've even got that myself. I did a couple of clubs with some new cats, and they're like, yeah, we'll put you on, man. I don't really know who you are, but that's cool, And you got to show your skills that you know what you're doing. But that's progression. I just think there's nothing wrong with moving on, and nothing wrong with advancing and being adaptable and progression in our culture. I just feel though that it'd be nice if the history's there as well, that people know where we started. That's all. You know, I don't want no money from it. I don't think any of us want money from it. Not at our age anyway. You know, I mean, I'm established with a family, but yeah, it'd be nice just to, like what your brothers here are doing. You know, documenting this to share it with the community, and who knows? You know, someone might learn something from this. If one person takes something away from this, it's great. You know, because you know we've reached them.
So why do you think there's such a gap between, you know?
Well, the thing is, this is my personal opinion, and that's because a lot of the brothers, like, you know, in their late 40s, like myself, we sort of moved away from the culture. We've got families, wives, etc., children, and we didn't really, as things started to segregate out, we didn't really associate other than with our own people we knew. So we didn't really, you know, the mentality of a lot of older cats sometimes, not all, but some of them, don't want to communicate with these young kids. Who are you, you know? Because one thing, I think I was on Redfern Radio a few years back, and I said basically what needs to happen is the old school cats need to shut their mouth and listen to the new cats, right? These new kids coming up, listen to them and appreciate what they're trying to do, and then when these kids feel that you're listening to them, then they'll open up themselves to you. Because the thing is, today, the kids of today can easily wipe us out. We can be forgotten because they're the now. We're the past, and they can just forget us and write us out. So in order for us to be relevant and listened to by these children, kids, teenagers, adults now, we need to be listening to them and not disrespecting them. You know, because for starters, they might not know any better what they've come into this community, right, in this culture. They might not know, you know, this guy or that guy, this record. Like yourself, you know, I wasn't familiar with your work beforehand, you know, so that's no disrespect to you. That's just because you're not familiar with it. I'm not, but if we go around and go, oh, that's because, you know, you're this and that, and start labeling, pointing the finger, those people are going to tune out straight away to you, because today's lifestyle, we live in today, is very short. People don't have an attention span like we used to have, where everything's more kicked back, you know? So they'll just turn around and go, who's those guys? Forget them. Let's move forward and do our thing. This is where hip-hop started, because that's all they know. So the big thing I feel is for us older cats is to listen to the youth coming up and see what they've got to say and share our stuff. Once they open up to us, we open to them. Don't make it the other way around where you pay me respect because I'm old school. It's not going to work like that. We don't live in that time. You know, that's just how it is. So that's my take on why and how things have spread apart now. Because sometimes attitudes, sometimes just ways of thinking, old ways of thinking versus new ways, you know. And I think it's vital that we always listen to the youth, because otherwise, who am I to them?
So would you say that the older generation is more so responsible for the segregation?
Yeah, I'll be one of them. You know what I mean? If I'm not out there sharing the knowledge and meeting and getting involved with the youth, and look, let's be real. It's not like some of the old cats, you know, we can't be in a position to go out and meet you. We're in our families and stuff. But at the same time, we could still embrace the culture as well and see these young guys coming up and girls and say, you know what, yeah, respect, you know, you're keeping it alive. Instead of having a way of thinking like, oh, who are these dudes? What are they trying to do? That's not how it is, because this is all they know. Stop living in the 1980s and 90s and start growing and be adaptable to change. That's what it comes down to. I mean, me personally, I'm always going to be a old school dude and a New York style production type lover. You know, that's what I love. But I still respect what the kids are doing today, you know, and that's great, because it's keeping what's left of our hip-hop community to a degree still going, you know, and you know, you got b-boys out there, but I feel it is a responsibility on our behalf as elders to, you know, reach out to them to share the knowledge and use any outlet we can to put that knowledge out there, you know, because we don't want to be seen, because you know, the youth they don't want to see us ramming stuff down their throat. They don't want to hear that. So, but if we can communicate at their level, you know, opens a lot of doors.
And you think they'd listen?
It depends on your approach. You know, I mean, I'm here to share with you. I'm not here to tell you, because everyone's individual. You do what you do, you know.
When you talk rock and, you know, jazz and other genres, they often have like, you know, I think there's like a Rock Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got like things that are similar to museums almost for that genre of music.
Yeah.
Do you think hip hop should have its own?
They have a hip hop museum in New York. I think it'd be great if there was something here. I mean, I have a lot of things to donate to it, but yeah, I'd love to see some sort of. I've even said, you know, let's do an exhibition, put on an exhibition somewhere, and get people involved. And I think the closest we got to doing things like that that really put us on a platform where we could do that was when we were with Zulu, because Zulu's, you know, obviously about embracing the culture and the history and documenting everything. So we try to, if we did things, involve all the elements. Like when we did our jams, we'd have, you know, the graph, the MC, the DJ, the B-boys, you know, we'd have them all there at the event. We try to do that all the time. And then we'd try and do a separate thing where we could have a knowledge section as well. We did a panel once back in 2005, I think we did. And we had a big wall full of graph murals and photos from history and stuff like that. It was great, you know. I really do feel that we need to document a lot of our collective. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it'd be great to have somewhere where you can have every single bit of vinyl and cassette that's been released Australia-wide and have it all on display somewhere, you know.
The lesson. 927. Oh, yeah.